I've been trying to figure out why the buzzer is not working right on this guy, and I think I figured it out. I used the infrared emitter negative pad for ground. I'll bet you that's not ground. Just like the buzzer, on the buzzer, the negative pad is actually switched, and it's switched between disconnected and connected to ground, and that's how you turn the buzzer on and off. I'll bet that infrared negative, of course it's switched too, because the infrared emitter has to on and off. It can't just be connected to ground all the time. And since the buzzer is switched negative, I'll bet the infrared is too. So I'm going to just take that off of there. I'm going to move it over to the ESC negative pad, which I know is switched to ground, or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. Any negative pad will do. All right, I bet you now my buzzer works. Yeah, the infrared emitter. I mean, I never use an infrared emitter. I just was like, yeah, there's a negative pad, I'll grab it. And I always know that the buzzer negative is switched. You can't, the buzzer positive is just 5 volts. You can just use your buzzer positive as 5 volts, and you can use 5 volts as your buzzer positive. And in fact, here's a trick for you. If you connect your buzzer positive wire to VBAT, your buzzer will become super, super loud. Don't do that with like a little Vifly finder like this. These guys only take 5 volts. They have their own internal amplifier. But for a normal piezo buzzer, you can connect it to VBAT and it gets super, super loud. It also might burn out, so do that at your own risk. But buzzer negative is switched, and I knew that, but maybe infrared negative is also switched. Let's just double check that I haven't screwed something up here. Yes, it works right now. Yay! Give it a second, it'll get louder. The Vifly starts out quiet and then gets super loud. See? That's pretty cool. Okay then, well, while we're at it, let's go ahead and insert this guy. How are we going to stick this guy down? I usually like to double it up with a little bit of tape. I'd like the button to be accessible. I like to double it up with a zip tie just for additional security, because I don't really trust just tape by itself, but I just don't know how I'm going to be able to get this guy. Certainly don't know how I'm going to get the button to be accessible. Maybe like that. Maybe, I don't think I can get my finger in there to push the button very easily. So that's a shame. I guess you could always use a screwdriver. We'll just tape this guy down. I stuff it between the standoffs, and maybe that'll help it stay secure. I don't know, man. That's not gonna stay. That's gonna come loose. I just know it. I can try some of this E6000. So I've got this stuff. This is E6000. It's an adhesive. It's really freaking bad for you, so I'm not gonna do it in here, but I'll do it outside. But it actually is, it's decently good at sticking to carbon. So maybe I'll just glue it down. All right, moving on. The last thing we're gonna do here in this build is the VTX. We got to wire up the VTX. This is the TBS Unify Pro HV. It's been my go-to VTX for a long time. Well, mostly since they switched to the MMCX, or some of them, the UFL version now has a little metal cross piece that holds the UFL on. Very, very cool. This one's an MMCX one. We're going to be using it in this build. These actually, I think they've discontinued them, and now the Pro 32 HV is the go-to, but I still have this guy sitting around, and we're going to use it. And one of the reasons I want to use it is because it has an audio input, and the SPRacing H7 has a thing called PID audio, and I have no freaking idea what it is, but basically it represents your PID error as an audible sound that mixes into your ear with the microphone audio. So you can like hear how well your PIDs are working. So for the time being, we're just going to hook this guy up like normal with smart audio, but someday we may do a video about PID audio, so that'll be cool. The yellow wire gets snipped at the plug, and the orange and the black wires get snipped at the VTX. The orange and the black wires and the white wire gets snipped at the plug. The orange wire is 5 volt out, to power a camera, like if you are on a fixed wing that doesn't have a flight controller or something, doesn't have an easily accessible voltage regulator. That's how I do it. So we've got 4 wires. White for audio or smart audio, which is what we'll be doing. Red for power, black for ground, and yellow for video. Once again, we've run into a little bit of a snag, if you will, which is that the UARTs on this flight controller are kind of, most of them are accessible only via plug. So I have to get another freaking plug, and I have to go look up the plug pinout. I understand the logic, but I guess the takeaway is that I would have been better off using the H7 not the H7 Extreme, which is more optimized for a 4-in-1 ESC. I need a UART for smart audio, and there aren't any more pin outputs on the board. So I do not want to give up smart audio. There we go. Because interacting with a Unify solely via the button is freaking annoying. Oh, I should do these inwards. Yeah. I got a little bit of a pointy peak when I did that first joint, so I'm going to go ahead and add some flux here. I'll just turn this around so I can more easily get at it to do them inwards. It's hard to get enough solder on these guys that it's easy to get the wire to stick while still not bridging them. Especially when I'm doing a joint where I can't add any more solder while I'm doing the joint. I want to make sure the wire is plenty tinned. There we go. Ooh, that was a good one. I gotta go look at the freaking user manual and see where one more UART can come. I know it's got at least 2 more UARTs. Although, this is kind of silly, but although this flight controller has like, I don't know, 6, 8 ridiculous number of UARTs, the fact that I have to plug in a freaking plug to get, I don't like it. So I'm going to just use the LED strip pad. I'm going to remap it to soft serial just like this was some diddly flight controller with no UARTs. And I'm just going to use that because at least it's a pin that I can solder to. Now where the heck is it? Hold on. So in case you're new here, what's going on is Betaflight supports a function called resource remapping, which is where you could take a pin that was like intended by the board designer to be the LED output, but then you remap it to be something else. And in this case, I'm going to turn it into soft serial, which basically means I can control my video transmitter from that rather than having to connect it to a hardware UART. I'm throwing around a lot of terminology here. If you're new here, probably lost you anyway, but there you go. So here's my LED pad. There we go. Perfect. I'm assuming this flight controller supports soft serial. It supports everything else in the kitchen sink, so if it doesn't support soft serial, I'm going to be truly astounded and annoyed, but I'm willing to wager that it does. Well, Joshua from the future here, and yes, I was annoyed and frustrated because it does later turn out when I go to set up soft serial, this flight controller doesn't support soft serial. And that's pretty reasonable because it does have 8 freaking hardware UARTs. Why would you ever want soft serial? Because you just hate plugs and like to direct solder like me and should really be using a different flight controller for this build. Anyway, yada. I'm leaving this part in because, hey, it's a good idea that you might use in a future build, and I want to let you guys have like the real experience of how the build went. But there you go. That's what we're going to go with for now. Okay. We need an MMCX pigtail. Right angle preferably. Let's just flip this around. Give it a little twisty twist to neaten it up. This is, where's the 3D printed thingamabobber? It's up here on the desk, but where is it? Where? I literally just had it. I swear I just lose something in plain sight. Where in the dickens did the thing go? I had it in my hand, and I set it aside, and I said to myself, I'll do that on video later. Well, I guess I'm going to clean my bench. It's right here. I guarantee it's right here. Alright, I'm going to stop the cameras until I find it. I found it. It was stuck to the bottom of my tape. Okay, the piece I was looking for was this little piece here that goes on the back standoffs for the antenna. And let's see, how does it go? Does it go like this? So the antenna is angled upwards. I guess that's what it does. Let's work backwards from the antenna connector, shall we? These pigtails that I bought are too thick and they're not flexible enough. They're like, here's a thinner pigtail. I don't have one. Of course I don't have one. We're going a different direction. We're gonna just, here's what we're gonna do. That's gonna tuck up under there. That's how that's gonna go. So now I gotta make this turn here, and I don't know how I can do it. Is that gonna, yes, I think that'll work. Oh, that'll do it. I mean, that's not the worst thing I've ever seen. That will do. Is it sticking out the back? Yeah, okay, that is how we're gonna do it. Careful if you ever use a driver to tighten one of these down. You could just twist the whole end off if you're not careful. You could just twist it. You just twist it right off the end of the coax by accident. They've been clever here. They've molded this in the shape of the nut. That's really clever. So it resists twisting. That's very clever. I'm going to unlock this VTX. When you get a TBS VTX, it's a good idea to just unlock it on the bench because it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it afterwards. I'm just going to grab a random antenna and put it on here because you never want to power up the VTX without an antenna. Even a TBS VTX, which is fairly resilient. Power, and here is how you do it if you've never done it before. Wait for it to finish its little startup beeps. Okay, we're going to hold down the button, wait for the blue light to come on. There, blue light goes out. Now we are in something different about this thing. Now blue light comes on. But why? Alrighty, well, let me just look up the manual and see how to unlock this thing. Because, you know, apparently it's not the way it used to be. I've never seen it do that before. If I keep holding it down, what happens? When I release it, it just comes back on. There we go. You got to catch it. That's different. So now we're on, I can't remember if it's band or channel. We're going to hold it down again. Now we got 2 blinks, and that's either band or channel. And now the third one will not let you do if the VTX is locked because the third one is power. So we're going to hold down that button and keep holding it down for like 30 seconds until the blue light goes out, and we will have unlocked it. Yep, I'm changing the output power, so you see the number of blue is going up. So I guess I unlocked it. And now we are back. We're out of unlock mode. Okay, so it's unlocked. Then we are gonna take some of this 3M, or rather Scotch outdoor mounting tape, Scotch Extreme outdoor mounting tape. Apply it to the bottom here. This will help hold this in place. Actually, that's really more than we need. This stuff is pretty strong. And actually, if you use too much of it, you can like literally damage stuff getting it off. So what let's do is, let's just take a little sliver of that and let's put that right here on the frame where the VTX is going to go. Perfect. Then we will put the antenna in place and again work backwards. Yeah, because this has to be on top. Perfect. All right. Then the receiver will get the same treatment. Make sure we do this with the antenna facing up so that the LED is visible and the antenna connector is accessible. if we need to like swap the antenna, we don't have to take the whole thing apart to do it. I'm going to turn this way just to take some of the slack out of the wires. Now, I'm not going to trust that tape to hold everything together. It just, over the time and the shock of being a quadcopter, it will give out. So I'm going to take some zip ties and just one zip tie through this front set of holes. I think will do the trick. And you don't want to go crazy making it super tight. The point is just to sort of hold the tape into place. Tape is going to hold it together. The zip tie is just going to keep everything up against the tape. You don't want to crush anything, and you definitely don't want to accidentally push any buttons or anything, like a bind button or anything by accident. I do want to point out that I am intentionally passing this over the UFL of the receiver so that it holds it in. So that UFL doesn't get popped off by accident. That doesn't happen very often, but it's a little bit of insurance. Okay, so the last step would be to use my E6000 adhesive to stick this buzzer in place, which I'm going to do outdoors where the vapors will not get to me. But that, I believe that is a finished build. So we'll do our final sanity check, and we'll need to go back to the computer and do our resource remapping to get soft serial working. Good. All right. Let's power it up and let's see what's what. We should be, yeah, should be ready to go. Let's see if we got video, really. That's the question. It looks pretty sketchy, but I do have video. Okay, we are recording. All right, I got DVR from here. One of the things I noticed was that when I powered up, the camera said joystick control. This camera needs to be switched over to digital UART control. You have to short circuit the flipping plug, but how can you do that? I'm going to use this little adapter. If you don't have one of these little adapters, they're super useful on the bench because you can power your camera just from like a Fat Shark battery. And you can actually get video out directly into your goggles, but that, we're not going to do that. What I need is, yeah. And this is what I've got. This is a little camera plug from one of the joysticks, and it's just got the two wires shorted together. And what you do is you plug that into the camera, and that switches it between joystick mode and UART mode. So all I need to do here is just power up the camera by plugging in here, and just wait a second for it to power on and switch. Presumably it has. If I now plug in the battery, I should see digital control or whatever it says. Let's make sure my DVR is rolling. Okay, DVR is rolling. UART control. Okay, perfect. It says UART control. Final function check seems correct. Everything is working. It's time to button this baby up, and that is really good freaking news. I'm really happy to see that. I gotta do the E6000 before I button it up, I guess. How am I gonna freaking... Oh man, I don't know. Oh. Ooh, this smells like death. I'm sure it's fine to get it on your fingers. That's probably not going to give me cancer at all. I'm going to have to let that dry, but it definitely will not be going anywhere. I can assure you of that. One of the only changes I had to make was that this camera comes set for manual white balance, which I don't know why you would do that. I mean, who knows what kind of conditions you'll be flying in. Even if you assume that you're going to be flying outdoors, manual white balance is, I mean, what if it could be cloudy one day and sunny the next? So I'm not sure I know why Oscar chose to do that with his camera, but I set the camera to automatic white balance. It looks pretty good. I've been trying to convince myself to switch over to the Immortal T. I'm trying to see if I like that better, but I'm not sure that I do. So we're using the whisker on this one, mostly because I'm out of Immortal T's. That's basically the reason. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just get some of these screws on first. Hold this top plate in place until, and once it's secure, I can. I sometimes like to use a washer in situations like this, because I think that the screw can pull through the TPA a little too easily sometimes, but I'm going to give this one a chance to see how it does. If you wanted to use like a brass washer or a steel washer there, that wouldn't be the worst idea, in my opinion. There's no freaking room for the battery strap there. That is a real freaking shame. I mean, it'll go, but I'm a little bit sad about it, to be honest with you. Prefer to use rubberized battery straps, but since this is an X-Hover frame, we're going to use this X-Hover strap, even though it's not rubberized. X-Hover, rubberized straps, X-Hover. You gotta have rubberized straps. That is mandatory. Does this go around the back? If you're going to double up, does it go around the back? It looks like it could. Yeah, let's do that. I haven't got an SD card in there for black box logging either, but hey, there we go. So, yeah. It's not good to have anything like in contact with the flight controller like that, but I just don't know what else I could do. There's just no way to shorten these standoffs. I just don't know any. I mean, they're nylon. You could grind them down or cut them off, but they'd be all uneven. I don't know, man. We're gonna go with this. We're gonna go with this, but it's not my favorite thing in the world, I gotta tell you. I said we were going to zip tie this power wire to keep it from getting pulled if the battery ejects. This build is done. There's only one thing left to do. There's two things left to do. One is, I mean, I gotta test fly it. And I gotta check that the tune is like not completely bogus. And then I'm gonna take it to Atlanta and I'm gonna do a little challenge with Stingy. It's his frame. So you'll see that on the channel soon. But for now, yay! I gotta tell you guys, this is my favorite part of a build. This, when it's done and it's perfect and it's clean and it's beautiful and it flies as good as it ever will. This is it, man. I love this moment. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take it out and we're going to beat the crap out of it. But for now, adjust this up tilt slightly. For now, the build is done. I hope you enjoyed following along with me. I understand this was not the most organized build. This was not a tutorial. It was a come along and be a part of the madness. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll let you in on the secret. I think that when you are not afraid of crashing, you become a better pilot because you push yourself, you learn to do things that you would be afraid to try. You get outside your comfort zone. So, since this is Stingy's frame, and since it's supposed to be super strong, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to Atlanta, I'm going to say, Stingy, you set a trick, and I will do the trick. I'll keep trying until I either break a quad, or I do the trick. And we're either going to get some awesome tricks, or we're going to break this quad. We'll see. That's a hell of... I'm going to have to do a separate review of that flight controller, man. Shoo! I mean, it took me a lot of thinking. Figure out how to wire it up. It's a good looking build, though. It's a good looking build. I do like it. Yeah. We shall see. Stingy frame, huh? We shall see. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to go to bed. It's freaking like 11 p.m. Happy flying, everybody.